They should have killed her when they had the chance. I know that now. We all know that now. But back then, when Commander Vrel first dragged the human female into the detention hall of Station Korthax, we thought she was just another soft-skinned mammal. Another weak specimen from that backward little planet called Earth. Another joke. How wrong we were. My name is Quelix. I am a documentation officer for the Draxian Empire, which means I record everything that happens on our military installations. It is a boring job, usually. I watch monitors, I file reports, I try not to fall asleep during the third shift. But that day, the day Commander Vrel brought in the human, my life stopped being boring. And it started being terrifying. Let me paint you a picture of what I saw on those monitors. The human female was small. Tiny, actually. She stood maybe 5.5 feet tall, which is pathetic compared to the 7-foot average of a Draxian warrior. Her skin was this odd tan color, smooth and unmarked. No scales, no protective plating, no natural armor whatsoever. She had long, dark hair that fell past her shoulders, and these strange brown eyes that seemed to take in everything around her. Her name was Maya Torres. Commander Vrel threw her into the holding cell with enough force to crack the bones of a normal being. She stumbled, caught herself on the wall, and slowly turned to face him. She did not cry. She did not beg. She just stared at him with those calm, calculating eyes. Pathetic, Vrel spat, his mandibles clicking with disgust. This is what Earth sends to negotiate. A fragile little female? The other guards laughed. I remember that sound echoing through the detention hall. It bounced off the metal walls, sharp and mocking. I even chuckled myself, I am ashamed to admit. We had all heard the stories about humans, about how soft they were, how easily they broke, how they needed constant food and water and sleep just to survive. Maya Torres said nothing. She just kept staring. Do you know where you are, human? Vrel leaned close to the energy barrier that separated them. You are on Station Korthax, 16,000 light-years from your precious Earth. No one is coming to save you. No one even knows you are here. Still, she said nothing. Vrel's eyes narrowed. He was not used to being ignored. You came here to negotiate a treaty, to beg us not to invade your world. But here is the truth. Little mammal, we do not negotiate with prey, we conquer it. And your planet will fall within a standard cycle. That is when Maya Torres finally spoke. No, she said quietly, it will not. The detention hall fell silent. Even the low hum of the station's life support systems seemed to pause. Vrel stared at her, his 3 eyes blinking in disbelief. Then he laughed. A deep, booming sound that made my antenna twitch. Did you hear that? He turned to address the guards. The prey thinks it can resist. The soft little human thinks her species stands a chance against the might of the Draxian Empire. More laughter. More mocking. I watched Maya Torres on my monitor, zooming in on her face. Her expression had not changed. She was not angry. She was not afraid. She was just waiting. Tell me, human, Vrel said, composing himself. What makes you think your people can stop us? You have no claws, no natural weapons. You are slow, weak, and fragile. A single Draxian warrior could slaughter 100 of you without breaking a sweat. Maya tilted her head slightly. Is that what you think? That is what I know. Then you have already lost, she said simply. But the temperature in the detention hall seemed to drop. I felt my scales prickle with sudden unease. There was something in her voice, something that did not match her small, vulnerable appearance. Vrel's amusement faded. Brave words for someone in a cage. I am not the one in a cage, Commander. Maya took a step forward. You are. Before anyone could respond to that bizarre statement, the station's alarm began to wail. Red lights flashed across every corridor. My monitors lit up with urgent warnings. Breach detected. Section 7. Hull integrity compromised. Emergency protocols activated. I switched camera feeds frantically, trying to understand what was happening. Section 7 was the docking bay. But we had not been expecting any ships. Nothing was scheduled to arrive for another 3 planetary rotations. Then I saw them. Humans. Yet. They poured through the breached hull like a flood of determined fury. 20 of them. Maybe 30. All wearing black combat armor that seemed to absorb light. All carrying weapons that looked crude and primitive but moved with deadly efficiency. Impossible. Rel shouted, checking his wrist comm. The human ship was destroyed. We confirmed the wreckage. Maya smiled for the first time. It was not a nice smile. You confirmed wreckage, she agreed. Just not our wreckage. Did you really think we would send our diplomatic envoy on a single ship? With no backup? No contingency plan? She shook her head slowly. Commander, you have never truly fought humans before. You have only fought the ones who wanted to be seen. The station shook as an explosion ripped through the lower decks. My screen showed Draxian soldiers rushing to defensive positions, weapons raised. They opened fire on the advancing humans, plasma bolts streaking through the corridor. The humans did not slow down. They moved like nothing I had ever seen before, dodging, rolling, using the station's own architecture as cover. One of them, a massive male with a scarred face, grabbed a plasma rifle from a fallen Draxian and turned it on its former owners. Another, a female with short blonde hair, threw something small and metallic that exploded with enough force to buckle the corridor wall. This cannot be happening, I whispered to myself, watching the carnage unfold. They are just humans, soft, weak humans, but they were not fighting like weak prey. They fought like apex predators who had been insulted by being called prey in the first place. Rel slammed his fist against the control panel. All units, converge on Section 7. Kill them all. Maya watched him with that same calm expression. You still do not understand. Understand what? Rel snarled. They are not here to rescue me, Commander. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. They are here to make sure you understand what happens when you threaten Earth. The lights flickered. My monitors showed Draxian soldiers falling back, overwhelmed by the human assault. These were not trained warriors. These were not professional soldiers. According to the intelligence reports I pulled up frantically, these humans were civilians. Volunteers. People who had signed up to protect their world when the Draxian Empire had issued its ultimatum. And they were winning. Impossible, Rel repeated, but his voice lacked conviction now. Our intelligence said humans were cowards, that they would surrender at the first sign of superior force. Your intelligence was wrong. Maya pressed her hand against the energy barrier, and I noticed something I had missed before. Her fingers were scarred, calloused. These were not the hands of a soft diplomat. Let me tell you something about my species, Commander. We are persistent. We hold grudges. And we never, ever forget when someone threatens our home. Another explosion. Closer this time. The detention hall shuddered, and dust rained from the ceiling. I could hear weapons fire now, not just see it on my screens. The humans were getting closer. Rel grabbed his communicator. All remaining forces, fall back to the command center. Establish a defensive perimeter. Do not let them through. But I could see on my monitors that there were not many forces left to fall back. The humans had cut through the station's garrison like a blade through flesh. They were not being reckless. They were not charging blindly. Every move was calculated, every shot placed with precision. It was terrifying. You are making a mistake, Rel said, turning back to Maya. His voice had lost its mocking tone. Now he just sounded desperate. If you kill us, the Empire will send a battle fleet. They will glass your entire planet. Will they? Maya asked. Are you certain? Of course they will. Earth will burn for this. She shook her head. No, Commander, because while you were busy mocking me, while you were laughing at how weak and fragile I am, my people were doing what humans do best. And what is that? Planning. Or the main door to the detention hall exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris, I saw them. The human strike team. They moved in perfect formation, weapons sweeping the room, covering every angle. The scarred male I had seen earlier stepped forward, his rifle trained on Vrel. "Commander Vrel," he said, his voice carrying a thick accent I did not recognize. "You are going to power down that containment field. Now." Vrel raised his weapon, but 3 human rifles immediately targeted him. He froze. I said now. The scarred human repeated. Slowly, Vrel's hand moved to the control panel. The energy barrier around Maya's cell flickered and died. She stepped out, rubbing her wrists where the restraints had been. "Thank you, Marcus," she said to the scarred human. Marcus nodded. "You good, Captain." "Captain." I felt my stomach drop. She was not a diplomat, but she had never been a diplomat. "I am fine," Maya replied. She walked past the human soldiers, past the fallen Draxian guards, and stopped directly in front of Vrel. She had to look up to meet his eyes. The difference in their sizes was almost comical. But there was nothing funny about the situation anymore. "You asked what makes humans dangerous," she said softly. "It is not our strength. It is not our weapons. It is our refusal to accept that we are prey. You told me I was weak, fragile, pathetic." She paused. "Yeah, and then you gave me exactly what I needed." "What are you talking about?" Vrel demanded. "A time." Maya smiled that terrible smile again. "While you were keeping me here, mocking me, showing me your station's layout through every camera in this detention hall, my team was studying, learning, finding every weakness in your defenses. You were so confident that I was harmless that you never considered I might be bait." Understanding dawned in Vrel's eyes. Horror followed quickly after. You wanted to be captured." "Of course I did." Maya turned to Marcus. "Status? Station secure, Captain. We have control of all major systems. There are no casualties on our side. 67 Draxian personnel neutralized, 43 in custody." "Excellent." She looked back at Vrel. "Here is what is going to happen, Commander. You are going to send a message to your empire. You are going to tell them that humanity is not interested in being conquered. You are going to tell them what happened here today, and you are going to recommend very strongly that they leave Earth alone. And if I refuse?" Vrel's mandibles clicked defiantly. Maya's expression did not change. "Then we will send your ship back to the Draxian homeworld, with all of you still on board. Dead." The detention hall was silent except for the faint sparking of damaged electronics. I watched on my monitors as Vrel's resolve crumbled. He was a warrior. He had been trained to face death without fear. But there was something about the cold certainty in Maya's voice that broke him. "You are a monster," he whispered. "No," Maya corrected. "I am a human, and you threatened my world. What did you expect?" Over the next several hours, I watched as the human team systematically secured every part of Station Korthax. They moved with efficiency that spoke of extensive training and planning. They treated the captured Draxians firmly but not cruelly. They provided medical care to the wounded. They even repaired some of the systems they had damaged during their assault. It was professional, clinical, terrifying. I remained at my post documenting everything. It is what I do. Even when my world was falling apart, I kept recording. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was duty. Maybe I just needed something familiar to hold on to. Maya found me there in my small monitoring station, surrounded by screens showing every corner of the station. "Quilix," she said, reading my name from the identification badge on my uniform. "Documentation officer." I nodded, not trusting my voice. She pulled up a chair and sat down beside me. Up close, she looked even more human, more vulnerable. But I knew better now. I had seen what she was capable of. "I need you to do something for me," she said. "What?" My voice came out as a croak. I need you to make sure your empire sees everything, every moment of what happened here today. Can you do that? I looked at my screens, at the recordings of her capture, her interrogation, the human assault, the Draxian defeat. Why? I asked. This will humiliate the Empire. They will want revenge. Maybe, Maya agreed. Or maybe they will realize that revenge is not worth the cost, that humanity is not an easy target, and that we will fight back with everything we have. She leaned forward. I am not a monster, Quelix. I do not want war. But if war is coming to my home, I will make sure it is so bloody, so costly, so painful that your empire thinks twice before trying again. You cannot win against the full might of Draxia, I said. We have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. Perhaps. She stood up. But how many are you willing to lose? That is the question you need to ask yourselves. Because I promise you, Quelix, every human you kill will cost you 100 Draxians. Every city you destroy will be paid for with 10 of yours. We are very good at math, and we never forget a debt. She left me then, returning to her team. I sat alone with my monitors, watching the humans prepare to leave. They took Vrel with them, along with several other high-ranking officers. Insurance, Maya called it. Hostages would be a more accurate term. But before they left, Maya made one final stop. She came back to the detention hall, to the cell where she had been imprisoned. I watched her stand there for a long moment, looking at the space where Vrel had mocked her. Then she spoke, and I realized she was talking to the cameras, talking to me, talking to anyone who would watch this recording. My name is Captain Maya Torres of the Earth Defense Coalition. I came to Station Korthax to deliver a message. The Draxian Empire did not want to listen, so I made sure they could not ignore it. She paused. Nod. Humanity is not looking for a fight, but we will finish any fight that comes to us. Remember that. Remember what happened here, and choose wisely. The human team departed 3 hours later, taking their hostages and leaving the station intact. They could have destroyed it. They could have killed everyone, but they did not. They made their point and left. I sent the recordings to the Empire as Maya had requested. No, that is not accurate. I sent them because I had to. Because someone needed to understand what had really happened here. 3 days later, I received new orders. I was being reassigned to Imperial Intelligence. My task was to compile everything known about human military capabilities, human psychology, human history. The Empire wanted to know what they were dealing with. I am still working on that task now, weeks later. And the more I learn, the more terrified I become. Humans have spent their entire evolutionary history fighting nature, fighting each other, fighting anything that threatened their survival. They have refined warfare into an art form. They have created weapons that can destroy planets. They have survived ice ages, plagues, wars that killed millions of their own kind. And they kept going. They always keep going. Commander Vrel was returned to the Empire after 2 weeks. He was unharmed physically, but something had broken inside him. He retired from military service and now lives in seclusion on a remote colony world. He refuses to speak about what happened on Station Korthax. But I know. I have the recordings. The Draxian High Command watched my documentation. They saw Maya Torres calmly accepting her imprisonment. They saw her smile as her team breached the station. They saw our garrison fall despite having superior numbers and weapons. And they made a decision. The invasion of Earth was postponed indefinitely. Diplomatic channels were opened. Treaties were discussed. The official reason given was that the Empire needed to focus resources on other conflicts. But I know the truth. We all know the truth. We were afraid. Afraid of that small, soft, fragile species that refused to be prey. Afraid of their persistence, their planning, their absolute refusal to accept defeat. Afraid of what they would become if we pushed them too hard. Sometimes, late at night when I am reviewing footage, I think about what Vrel said to Maya in that detention hall, about how a single Draxian could slaughter 100 humans. It was meant to intimidate her, to break her spirit. But what if she took it as a challenge instead? What if she thought, fine, then we will just have to be better prepared? What if every insult, every threat, every mocking laugh just made humans more determined to prove us wrong? That is the thing about humans, I have learned. You can beat them down. You can hurt them. You can take everything from them. But as long as one of them draws breath, as long as one of them remembers, they will come back. Stronger, smarter, more dangerous than before. They do not forgive. They do not forget. And they absolutely will not quit. Captain Maya Torres taught us that lesson on Station Korthax. I pray to the ancient stars that the Empire remembers it. Because if we ever make the mistake of truly angering humanity, of pushing them past the point of negotiation and into the realm of total war, I do not think the Draxian Empire will survive the consequences. They mocked her weakness. She became their nightmare. And I, Quilix, documentation officer turned intelligence analyst, will make sure that every member of the Empire knows exactly what happens when you underestimate a human, especially one named Maya Torres. 6 months after Station Korthax, I thought I understood humans. I was wrong. Again. Let me explain what happened during those 6 months. The Empire, in its infinite wisdom, decided that the incident at Korthax was an anomaly, a fluke. Yes, the humans had surprised us. Yes, they had been more capable than expected. But surely, with proper planning and preparation, the Draxian military could handle one small planet of soft-skinned mammals. I tried to warn them. I really did. I submitted report after report detailing human military history, their wars, their weapons, their absolutely insane refusal to surrender even when logic dictated they should. I showed them footage of human soldiers fighting in conditions that would kill most species. I explained their concept of guerrilla warfare, of asymmetric tactics, of total mobilization. The High Command thanked me for my thoroughness. Then they ignored everything I said. 3 months after Korthax, Fleet Admiral Torvin announced that the invasion of Earth would proceed. He claimed to have learned from our mistakes. He promised that this time, the Draxian Empire would not underestimate the humans. He was lying to himself. I was assigned to the flagship, the Eternal Fury, as an intelligence liaison. My job was to provide real-time analysis of human responses during the invasion. I accepted the position because someone needed to be there who actually understood what we were facing. Also, I was terrified of what would happen if I refused. The invasion fleet consisted of 200 warships. 200. It was the largest military force the Empire had assembled in 3 generations. We had enough firepower to reduce Earth's surface to molten glass within hours. We had troop carriers loaded with 30,000 elite soldiers. We had support vessels, supply chains, backup systems for our backup systems. Admiral Torvin stood on the command deck of the Eternal Fury, looking at the tactical display with satisfaction. Earth hung there in the hologram, blue and green and utterly defenseless. Or so he thought. Officer Quilix, the Admiral addressed me without turning around. Your assessment? I looked at the data streaming across my console. Earth had detected our fleet the moment we entered their solar system. They were broadcasting on all frequencies, asking us to reconsider, offering renewed negotiations, pleading for peace. Admiral, I said carefully, I recommend extreme caution. The human communications suggest they are prepared for our arrival. Of course they are prepared. Torvin laughed, his scales rippling with amusement. They knew we would come eventually. But preparation and capability are different things. What can they possibly do against 200 warships? I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him by his uniform and shake him until some sense penetrated his thick skull. Instead, I simply said, Admiral, I strongly advise we maintain maximum defensive posture and expect unconventional tactics. He waved a dismissive hand. Noted. Begin the invasion. The fleet moved forward, breaking into attack formations. Half would focus on orbital bombardment, targeting military installations and communication hubs. The other half would deploy troop carriers to secure major population centers. It was a textbook invasion strategy. Overwhelming force applied with precision. Against any other species, it would have worked perfectly. Against humans? Well, we were still 300,000 kilometers from Earth when the first missiles launched. Incoming projectiles. The tactical officer shouted. Multiple launches from Earth's surface. Velocity, Admiral, they are moving at 0.7 light speed. Impossible. Missiles could not achieve that velocity. The fuel requirements alone would be astronomical. But my console showed the same readings. Dozens of impossibly fast projectiles screaming toward our fleet. Evasive maneuvers. Torvin ordered. Point defense systems engage. The fleet scattered, ships burning their engines at maximum thrust. Our point defense cannons spat energy bolts, trying to intercept the missiles. Some succeeded. Most did not. The first missile hit the cruiser Dancing Blade. It did not explode. Instead, it punched straight through the ship's hull, through its armor plating, through its reactor core, and out the other side. The cruiser simply stopped, all power gone, all systems dead, a perfectly round hole drilled through its entire length. What in the void was that? Torvin stared at the tactical display in disbelief. I checked my readings. Admiral, the missiles appear to be kinetic penetrators. Solid metal projectiles accelerated to relativistic speeds. No explosives, just mass and velocity. Kinetic weapons? He sounded offended. That is primitive. Barbaric. And effective, I muttered, watching 3 more ships report critical damage. The missiles kept coming. Wave after wave of them launched from hidden silos across Earth's surface. Our fleet was in chaos, ships breaking formation to avoid being hit. And then, while we were distracted, the real attack began. Ships appeared from behind Earth's moon. Not human ships. Our ships. Draxian warships, identical to our own, broadcasting correct identification codes and transponder signals. Reinforcements? Torvin looked confused. I did not request reinforcements. The tactical officer checked her console. Her face went pale. Admiral, those ships are not ours. What do you mean they are not ours? They are clearly Draxian vessels. Sir, they are transmitting our codes, but the heat signatures are wrong. The engine outputs do not match our specifications. And, Admiral, one of them just opened fire on the Crimson Talon. We watched in horror as our own ships, or at least perfect copies of them, engaged the fleet. They moved like us. They shot like us. They even used our own tactical formations against us, but they were not Draxian. They were human-built decoys designed to create confusion and split our targeting priorities. This is madness. Torvin slammed his fist on the command console. Where did they get our ship designs? How did they build functional copies? I could have told him. I could have explained that 6 months was more than enough time for humans to reverse engineer captured Draxian technology, to build, to test, to deploy. But he would not have listened. So I simply tracked the damage reports as they flooded in. 12 ships destroyed, 23 severely damaged. And we had not even reached effective weapons range yet. All ships, concentrate fire on Earth's surface, Torvin ordered. Target those missile silos. I want them destroyed. The fleet complied, unleashing a barrage of plasma bolts toward Earth's continents. I watched the targeting data, feeling sick. Millions of humans lived in those areas. This was not war. It was genocide. But the plasma bolts never reached the surface. Something intercepted them. A shimmering field of energy that wrapped around Earth like a protective shell. Our weapons struck the barrier and simply dissipated, their energy absorbed and dispersed harmlessly into space. Planetary shield? The tactical officer's voice cracked. Since when do humans have planetary shields? Since they captured our technology and improved it, I thought bitterly. Since they took our designs and made them better. Since we gave them 6 months to prepare for this exact scenario. Admiral, I said quietly, I recommend immediate withdrawal. Absolutely not. Torvin's eyes blazed with fury. We have 200 ships. We have superior firepower. We will not retreat from a single planet of primitives. Admiral, please listen. All carriers deploy ground forces. If we cannot bombard them from orbit, we will take the planet the old-fashioned way. This was a mistake. I knew it was a mistake. Every instinct I had screamed that this was a terrible, horrible mistake. But I was just an intelligence officer. What did I know? The troop carriers broke formation, accelerating toward Earth. They would need to pass through the planetary shield, but shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid objects. The carriers could punch through and deploy our soldiers directly onto Earth's surface. That was the plan, anyway. The carriers made it through the shield. They began atmospheric entry, heat shields glowing as they descended toward the major cities. I tracked their progress on my console, watching the altitude readings drop. Then the readings stopped dropping. All of them, simultaneously. Sir, the tactical officer said slowly, the carriers have stopped descending. They are just hovering. What? Torvin pulled up the visual feed. The carriers hung in Earth's atmosphere, roughly 10 kilometers above the surface. They were not moving, not descending, or not ascending, just floating there like toys suspended in water. Engines are at full power, the carrier commander reported over the comm. But we are not moving. Something is holding us in place. Then I saw them. Structures on the ground below each carrier. Massive devices that I did not recognize pointed skyward. They were generating some kind of field, a gravitational manipulation that held the carriers frozen in midair. Gravity wells, I breathed. They built gravity wells. Before anyone could respond, the structures activated their secondary function. The carriers began to compress, slowly at first, then faster. The metal screamed as the hulls crumpled inward, crushed by artificial gravity thousands of times stronger than Earth's natural pull. I heard the screams over the comm before someone cut the feed. 30,000 soldiers. Gone, just like that. The command deck of the Eternal Fury fell silent. Everyone stared at the tactical display, watching the carrier markers wink out one by one. This was not a battle. This was an execution. All back, Torvin whispered. All ships, fall back to safe distance. The fleet retreated, breaking away from Earth and regrouping at the edge of the system. We had lost 38 ships, 30,000 ground troops, and we had not even inflicted a single casualty on the enemy. Admiral Torvin sat in his command chair, staring at nothing. His scales had lost their luster. His eyes were unfocused. I had seen this before, during my research into human warfare. They had a term for it, shell shock. How? He asked no one in particular. How did they do this? I could have given him the technical answer. Humans had captured our ships at Cortax. They had studied our weapons, our shields, our propulsion systems. They had 6 months to prepare. 6 months to build defenses specifically designed to counter Draxian tactics. But the real answer was simpler. We underestimated them, again. The comm system crackled to life. A human voice spoke, calm and professional and absolutely terrifying in its composure. Draxian fleet, this is Earth Defense Command. You have attacked our world without provocation. You have attempted to destroy our cities and kill our people. This will not stand. Torvin found his voice. This is Admiral Torvin of the Draxian Empire. You have committed an act of war against a superior civilization. Surrender now and you will be treated with mercy. The human on the other end actually laughed. It was not a nice laugh. Admiral, you seem confused about the current situation. Allow me to clarify. You are surrounded. Surrounded? We are in open space. There is nothing here but the tactical display lit up like a festival celebration. Ships, hundreds of them, surrounding our fleet in a perfect sphere. They had been there the whole time, hidden by some kind of stealth technology that our sensors could not penetrate. And I recognized the design of those ships. They were human, but they were also Draxian, and Keltorian, and Vexon, and a dozen other species I could identify. The humans had not just copied our technology. They had stolen technology from multiple civilizations and combined it into something new. You cannot win this fight, the human voice continued. But we are not interested in destroying you. We are interested in making a point. So here is what will happen. You will withdraw your fleet from our system. You will return to the Draxian Empire. And you will deliver a message to your high command. What message? Torvin asked weakly. That Earth is off limits, permanently. Any future aggression against humanity will be met with overwhelming retaliation. We have studied you, Admiral. We know where your colonies are. We know where your shipyards are. We know where your homeworld is. And if you ever threaten us again, we will not fight defensively. We will bring the war to you. I felt my blood turn cold. They were not bluffing. I could hear it in the speaker's voice. Humans had spent 6 months preparing not just to defend their world, but to have the capability to strike back if needed. This is insane, Torvin muttered. You are one planet. We are an empire spanning 100 star systems. Then you have 100 star systems to defend, the human replied. And we only need to protect one. The math is not in your favor, Admiral. Trust me. We are very good at math. Where had I heard that before? Then I remembered. Captain Maya Torres had said almost the exact same thing to me on Station Cortax. We never forget a debt. You have 1 hour to leave this system, the human voice said. After that, we will consider your continued presence an act of continued hostility. And we will respond accordingly. The comm cut off. Admiral Torvin looked at me. Really looked at me, for perhaps the first time since I had come aboard. Your assessment, Officer Quilix? I thought about everything I had learned, everything I had witnessed. The determination I had seen in Maya Torres' eyes, the efficiency of the human strike team. The 6 months of preparation that had turned Earth into a fortress. We leave, I said simply. Right now. And we never come back. But the Empire. The Empire does not understand what we are dealing with, Admiral. I pulled up files on my console, showing him everything I had compiled. Humans are not like other species. They do not accept defeat. They do not forget insults. And they absolutely will not stop if they believe their survival is at stake. Station Cortax should have taught us that lesson. Today confirmed it. If we stay, we die. If we attack again, we bring a war to the Empire that we cannot win. Torvin stared at the data for a long moment. Then he gave the order. All ships. Set course for Draxian space. Maximum velocity. The fleet turned and fled. There is no other word for it. We fled from Earth like frightened children running from a predator. The human ships did not pursue. They simply watched us go, maintaining their perfect formation until we jumped to faster-than-light travel. The journey back to Draxian space was silent. No one spoke. No one wanted to acknowledge what had just happened. I spent the trip writing my final report. I documented everything. The missile attacks, the decoy ships, the planetary shield, the gravity wells, the hidden fleet. I included video recordings, sensor data, casualty lists. I made sure the High Command would have no illusions about what had occurred. When we arrived home, Admiral Torvin was immediately relieved of command. He did not protest. He simply retired to his family estate and never spoke publicly again. I was called before the High Command to present my findings. The council chamber was imposing. 12 of the Empire's highest-ranking officials sat in a semicircle, looking down at me from their elevated seats. I stood alone in the center, feeling very small. Officer Quilix, the High Counselor, began, "You have been studying humanity for 6 months. You witnessed the failed invasion firsthand. Tell us, what are we dealing with?" I took a deep breath. "Counselors, humanity is unlike any species we have encountered. They are physically weak. Yes, they have no natural weapons or armor, but they have something far more dangerous. They have adaptability. They learn from every encounter. They take technology from other species and improve upon it. They prepare for every possible scenario. And most importantly, they refuse to give up. So what do you recommend?" another counselor asked. "Leave them alone," I said flatly. "Establish diplomatic relations, trade agreements if possible, but never, ever threaten their homeworld again, because if we do, they will not just defend themselves. They will hunt us across the stars until the Draxian Empire is nothing but a memory." The chamber fell silent. "You are saying we should fear them?" The High Counselor sounded incredulous. "I am saying we should respect them, Counselor. There is a difference." They debated for hours. Some wanted revenge, some wanted to try again with an even larger fleet. But in the end, cooler heads prevailed. The Empire officially declared Earth a restricted zone. No Draxian ships were permitted within 50 light-years of their system without explicit permission from Earth Defense Command. It was not a surrender. It was a strategic reassessment. That is what the official documents called it. But everyone knew the truth. I returned to my office that evening exhausted and drained. My console had a new message waiting. It was from Earth, from Captain Maya Torres. I almost deleted it without reading. But curiosity won out. Officer Quilix. The message began, "I hope this finds you well. I wanted to thank you for your efforts to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. Your reports likely saved lives on both sides. I am sure this has been difficult for you, having your warnings ignored. But know that your integrity did not go unnoticed." She continued, "Humanity does not seek enemies, Quilix, and we seek partners. Understanding, mutual respect. If the Draxian Empire is willing to approach us as equals rather than prey, we would welcome the opportunity to build something better than fear." The message ended with, "We hope you will help bridge that gap. Because someone needs to help our species understand each other, and I think you might be the perfect person for that job. Captain Maya Torres, Earth Defense Coalition." I sat there for a long time, staring at those words. Someone needs to help our species understand each other. She was right, of course. Humans and Draxians did not need to be enemies. We could learn from each other, trade with each other, maybe even become allies eventually. But first, my people needed to let go of their pride, their assumption of superiority, their belief that might made right. It would not be easy. The Empire had built its entire identity around conquest and dominance. Accepting humans as equals would require a fundamental shift in how we saw ourselves and our place in the galaxy. But the alternative was worse, because I had seen what humans were capable of when threatened. I had watched them turn our invasion fleet into wreckage without losing a single life on their side. I had heard the calm certainty in that human commander's voice as they threatened to bring war to our entire empire. They were not bluffing. They never bluff. 3 weeks later, I was appointed as the Empire's official liaison to Earth. My job was to establish diplomatic channels, to facilitate communication, to help both sides understand each other. It was terrifying. It was challenging. It was the most important thing I had ever done. My first official meeting was with Captain Maya Torres. We met on a neutral station, halfway between our two worlds. She was exactly as I remembered. Small, calm, with those calculating brown eyes that saw everything. Officer Quilix, she greeted me with a slight bow. Or should I say Ambassador Quilix now? Just Quilix is fine, I replied. Captain Torres. Or should I say? Maya is fine, she smiled. That same smile that had terrified me in the detention hall of Station Corthax. but this time it reached her eyes. This time it seemed genuine. We talked for hours. About our species, our histories, our hopes and fears. She told me about Earth, about their diversity, about how they had overcome countless obstacles to reach the stars. I told her about Draxia, about our proud warrior culture, about how difficult it would be to change centuries of tradition. Change is always difficult, Maya said, but it is also necessary. My people learned that the hard way many times throughout our history. We had to learn that being strong does not mean dominating others. It means protecting what matters, building instead of destroying, creating instead of conquering. Your people seem very wise, I said. She laughed. Oh, we are not wise, we are stubborn. There is a difference. We make mistakes, terrible ones sometimes, but we learn from them. Eventually. That is more than many species can claim. We established the first trade agreement that day. Nothing major. Just an exchange of cultural information, scientific data, art and literature. But it was a start. As I left the station heading back to Draxian space, I thought about how much had changed in 6 months. How a single human female, captured and mocked, had transformed the entire relationship between our civilizations. They mocked her weakness. She became their doom. But she also became their salvation. Because without Maya Torres, without her measured response and her willingness to communicate instead of simply destroying us, the war between humans and Draxians might have consumed both our peoples. I think about Commander Vrel sometimes, about how he laughed at Maya in that detention cell, how he called her pathetic, how he thought she was just another soft mammal. He was wrong. But so was I initially. I thought humans were just lucky, just clever, just good at preparing. Now I know better. Humans are survivors, adapters, fighters who refuse to quit. They take every insult, every threat, every challenge and turn it into motivation. They learn from defeat. They plan for every contingency. And they never, ever stop trying to be better than they were yesterday. That is what makes them dangerous. That is also what makes them valuable as allies. The Draxian Empire is still learning that lesson. It will take time. Maybe generations. But we are learning. And I, Quelix, former documentation officer turned ambassador, will make sure we never forget what happened when we underestimated humanity. Because the greatest honor is not in conquest. It is in knowing when you have met your equal. And humanity, for all their physical weakness, for all their lack of natural weapons, for all the things we thought made them inferior. They are more than our equals. They are what we should aspire to become.